Hey guys! In today's video, I'm going to show you fun and easy things you can do when you feel bored this winter that are perfect projects and activities for your winter or Christmas holiday. This video is also brought to you by Squarespace. Whether you need a domain, website, or an online store, Squarespace makes it possible. Alright, let's start with the first idea. The first idea is to create winter-inspired jewelry that is not only beautiful, but also makes a perfect birthday or Christmas gift. The main thing we are going to need is epoxy resin. It comes with the clear resin and the hardener. The mixing ratio for this type of resin I'm using is 1:2, so we will need 1 cup of the hardener and the double amount of the resin. Add the liquids into an additional cup and mix it very well. Because if you don't mix it properly, the resin might not dry completely and stay sticky. But be sure to read the instructions of your resin because the ratios and the way you should prepare it might be different. To make these charms, you're going to need a silicone mold in the shape of your choice. Remove any dust or fluff, and then we can pour in a tiny amount of resin inside the molds to create the first layer of the charm. And then you can add anything that reminds you of snow and winter. Here I added a little bit of artificial snow to the resin and mix it in. If it looks a little too dry after adding the snow, pour in a little bit more resin on top until everything is completely covered with resin again. Another thing you can add are some iridescent stars into the resin. Add enough stars into the mold so the bottom and the sides are covered. But you can also get iridescent foil in different colors and use it for your project as well. Here I cut a little piece of the foil shaped like the mold, and then after adding a little bit of resin into the mold, I placed the foil on top that I first crumbled up a little bit to make it slightly wrinkly, making sure that everything is covered with resin. For another effect, you can also cut this foil into lots of different small pieces and add them to the resin. All these different ways will create different designs later. The small pieces will look more like snow and small crystals, and the whole piece of foil will look like a big beautiful crystal. I find making resin crafts so addictive because you can really experiment and try out different things to see how it will look in the end. Once you're happy with the designs, let the charms harden for a few hours until you notice that the top side is already rather hard, and now we can add the second layer on top. For the second layer, we are going to need a little bit more resin that we are going to color now. For this step, I'm using a tiny bit of acrylic paint that I mixed in very well. I prepared 2 different colors, white and also black. And then we can carefully pour the colored resin on top of the first layer of resin we created earlier. The colors will create completely different designs in the end, so I would recommend you either try out different colors first to see what you like or just decide what you prefer. And again, if you see any bubbles floating around, carefully remove them by quickly going over with a lighter. And then let everything completely harden. After everything has hardened, we get these beautiful resin charms. As you can see, the different colored background added a completely different feel to it. The white background looks really snowy and winter-like, and the black background made it look more fancy and darker, like a winter night. If you notice any sharp edges, don't worry, you can just remove them by filing them down really easily with sandpaper or with a nail file. Now all we need to do is attaching some glue on bails using a tiny bit of resin again. This way we will make sure that everything holds super well and won't fall off. For this step, add a tiny bit of resin that is already started to be slightly sticky on top of the back side of the charm, and then place the bail on top. I also added a tiny bit more of the resin on top of the back side to create an even surface. To avoid the bail falling down or the charm rolling to the side or something like that, you can place something below the bail. Here I used a few popsicles, but be assured that nothing of the resin drips down, or otherwise you will have ugly drops, or worse, the object that you place below the bail will get glued on as well. And once everything is completely hardened, we can attach a chain to the bail and make it a beautiful necklace. I'm absolutely in love with these necklaces. They're really easy to make, look beautiful, and they also make a perfect gift. The second idea is to create this beautiful snowy ice candle holder that will never melt even if it gets warmer. You will need a deep square-shaped silicone mold and a plastic cup that is slightly smaller than the square mold, so you get a frame that is thick enough but at the same time big enough to hold a small tea candle. Now pour some resin into the mold until you are happy with the height, add some artificial snow inside and then mix everything very well. I added a bunch of snow inside, but you can use less of course. The more you add, the more it will look like snow in the end and less than ice. Next, you want to place the plastic cup inside the square-shaped mold while making it a little bit heavier by adding a few coins inside. This way the cup will sink a little bit down but not completely. We still want to have some resin below it on the bottom to hold the candle. And now you can start adding some decorations and pushing them down inside the resin. I used a few pieces of an artificial Christmas tree and some fake berries. I also added a few plastic plants inside, but their color kind of dissolved in the resin, so I had a few red colored stains in the resin later, so I would be careful using anything that was just slightly painted without being sealed afterwards. And now it's time to let it harden until it's completely hard. Now all you need to do is remove it from the mold. Removing the plastic cup might be tricky, just do it slowly and carefully by removing one side after another until you push the air all the way down to the bottom. And you're done? Now you can place a small tea candle inside and you get a beautiful snow and ice inspired candle holder. I think this project looks so beautiful as well, and it also makes a great Christmas or birthday gift. The third idea is to make this cute Christmas inspired felt garland that is super easy to make. All you need is a little bit of felt wool, soap and some hot water. Start off by carefully pulling out a few strands of felt in the color of your choice by making sure everything lays nice and tidy. Here I'm going to use white, red and 2 different shades of green to make it fit into the Christmas theme. Once you have enough wool for the size of your choice, all we need to do now is adding a few drops of soap to the center of the wool. Now carefully dab it onto the felt to distribute it a little bit and then start shaping it into a bowl. Do it gently, it doesn't have to look perfect. We just want the threads to slightly connect to each other. Next, take some hot water and a bowl, and while you hold the felt on the side to avoid burning, pour some hot water over the wool. Do it very carefully. And now we can continue rolling the wool between our hands to shape it into a ball. Make sure the water is not super hot or you might burn your fingers. Squeeze out some excess water and then continue rolling it again. If you notice that there are some areas where you have folds you don't like, simply take a little bit of felt again and wrap it around the bowl and then continue rolling it into your palms. After some time you will notice that the little ball becomes firmer and firmer. At this point we just need to repeat the steps from the beginning. Pour a little bit of hot water over the ball of felt and then roll it between your hands. This time you can do that more firmly to shape the ball even more. The longer and firmer you roll it into your hands now, the smaller the ball will get. Once you're happy with the size and shape, put the ball to the side and let it dry. And now we can create all the other balls for the garland the same way. I made about 17 balls in different colors and checked from time to time if they're still the same size when I was making them. But if you want, you can of course make them into any size you want. Now, after you created a bunch of colorful felt balls, it's time to make them into a garland. For this step, you will need some thread and a needle. Here I'm going to use an embroidery thread and the needle for that. Cut the thread into the length you want the garland to be and then start threading one ball after another. To secure the balls on the thread, you can pull the thread through the felt close to the first stitch again to create a loop and then pull the needle through this loop to create a knot. And then repeat the step. Pull the needle through the felt and place it where you want it to be, and then pull the needle through the felt again, but this time really close to the thread to create a loop, and then pull the needle through the loop to make a knot. And now repeat the step until you attach every ball to the string. Once you reach the end, you can create a loop to hang it up. By the way, you can do the same on the other end as well. All you need to do is pull the needle through the ball to make a loop, and then repeat the same steps as we did earlier to create a knot, but at the other side. And then you can pull through the rest of the thread through the felt and cut off the excess string. Now you have a beautiful handmade garland. And then you can add it to your wall. As you can see, I still have my fall decoration up, but I think it looks great together. What do you guys think? The last idea I have for you guys is to start your own website or blog. How often have you thought about starting your own website or blog where you can express your creativity through words, images, or even sharing your ideas through a shop? If you have big dreams and awesome ideas but have no clue about websites, coding, or whatsoever, Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that can help you to jumpstart your dream. They have beautiful designed templates that you can use to create anything you want. From a simple blog, website, to an online shop, anything is possible. And if you have any troubles or if you need help with anything, they also have an award-winning 24/7 customer service that is there for you when you need them, so you never have to feel stressed and lost. So if you're curious or want to finally start your own personal blog or website for your new business idea, check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, simply go to squarespace.com/makoccino to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. I really hope you enjoyed these ideas and found them helpful. If you did, be sure to give this video a thumbs up to support this channel. It will mean a lot to me. For more ideas on what you can do when you feel bored, you can check out my playlist right here. And thank you so much for watching, guys. Have a wonderful day, and I will see you soon. Bye!